Hello, welcome to the Black Pill. No, I'm kidding. How's everybody doing today?
Oh, excellent.
Pretty good. I just have a lot of homework to do, but
yeah. Cold and miserable.
Cold and miserable. Yeah, snowing like over 14 inches here.
I got away from the snow.
Yeah. Anyway, so welcome to the. I think we all know why we're here today. The other night, I ended up moderating a debate, in case any of you here do not know, between Mr. Kevin Castley and Machiavellian, McCarthyist, Imperialist. I think I got those. McCarthyist, Machiavellian, whatever. Moderated a debate between them. The resolution was should the working class. What was it? How did I word it? The working class should have less of a say in government policy, and it was jokingly fuck the working class, but they shouldn't be really considered for. Basically, they're not fit, basically unfit for policy making, that sort of thing. But either way, we're going to go introduce ourselves one by one. Of course, you know me. I'm your friendly neighborhood, the Politicrat. Coronis the Great, is this your first time on any of my streams? I feel like I've had you on before, yet at the same time, I feel like it's not necessarily that I've had you on before, but we've just been on other people's streams together a lot.
Yeah. We did a couple of streams together with Ray Murasami. By the way, is my microphone okay, or is it too loud?
No, your microphone's fine.
Okay. So to introduce myself, Politicrat calls me a filthy establishment Democrat, which, in fairness, is not wholly inaccurate. And
no, you're like a typical Democratic Party hack. You actually like Chuck
Exactly. And for simplicity's sake, I will agree with that. I'm with the left on things like criminal justice reform, the war on poverty, LGBT rights, abolishing electoral college, but I agree with the right on free trade, reducing unnecessary regulations, balancing the budget, national security, etc. I am for whatever maximizes utility, and therefore agree with both sides of the political spectrum on various topics.
Okay. Up next, we have George. How are you doing today, George?
Like I said, I'm cold and miserable. I'm George Kakopoulos, and I'm an escaped chimp from my local zoo. And, I spend most of the day just yelling at my computer at things I don't like, at opinions and at takes I don't like. And I go ooh, at content I do like. And I saw the debate, and I guess I could give some thoughts on it.
Okay. And last but not least, Based Waifu, how are you doing, my dear?
Pretty good. I'm trying my best to ignore the fact that there's this guy who's like 6 years older than me, making constant videos about me, trying to get more fans because I'm picking on my channel with 22K subscribers. That's a little creepy.
This is probably wrong, but you know how back in kindergarten, the boy or the girl will be mean to each other and will like pull each other's hair and stuff. That's like their way of saying that their weird way of saying that they like each other. Maybe that's this. Maybe this is that.
Yeah, maybe Kevin has a
crush. I'm joking. I'm more or less joking here, but yeah.
Maybe he does, because like it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to find I guess female hawks. I guess I don't know if that's a rarity or something. I know.
I mean, female. That's kind of interesting. I mean, at least not to the extent of like Kevin. I mean, like I've never met any. Like honestly, Kevin is the only person I have ever met and talked to in my life who unironically believes in using nuclear weapons. And I know generally he's only talking about tactical nukes. Like I hope he doesn't believe in using strategic ICBMs. That would be frightening. But I think he just mostly talks about tactical nuke. Either way, I've never met a single person who advocates unironically using nuclear weapons before.
He also opposes the JCPOA, and he and MMI actually agree on this. He believes in strategically bombing, not nuking, but bombing like nuclear sites in Iran.
Yeah, like facilities.
Yeah, bomb their facilities.
The centrifuges and all that.
Yeah, just to take out their supply. But anyways, I mean, I guess you could say I'm very, very centrist on a lot of things. I'm very left wing, but according to I guess American standards. But I think
so you're basically shoe on it. No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm very middle of the road on a lot of things. I mean, I support pro
slavery. You know what? I mean, I'm not for slavery, but I'm not necessarily against slavery.
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm just very pro-intervention, and I'm quite anti-populist. So, but yeah, as you could say, I'm very I'm what a lot of people think of when they think of centrist.
Okay. And so anyway, either way, so the other night I ended up hosting a debate. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna like watch highlights from it too. So
may I interject very quickly? I think we should do with that first because we're still waiting on Ollie to come in and introduce himself. He said he's going to come on very soon. We're just waiting on him. What?
When did he say that?
Yeah, he said that he will be home before it's 2:00 in his time. So that means he should be on very, very soon. But yeah, we should watch those highlights first because I want him on here because otherwise this panel's way too biased in our favor. And I want Kevin.
Remember, I'm still like I was the moderator.
I know, but
I still have no bias.
That's why I say, yeah, that's why he's saying it's too biased in our favor.
Oh, fair enough. Okay,
yeah.
So
So we should watch the highlights first until Ollie shows up.
Super Hour Broadcasting.
There were supposed to be a couple other people, but we ran into some difficulties, I believe.
Debate night, the final showdown between. Okay. Okay. I forget. Did you watch it the other night? Based waifu.
Yeah, I did. I finished watching everything today. I watched everything but the last 10 minutes. But yeah, last 10 minutes.
But the thing is though, like, okay, so it started off like an actual debate, because the thing is, I was asked to moderate a debate.
Mm-hmm.
That is what, and so it was basically because, at least from my understanding, I was the only one who both MMI and Kevin, because Kevin wanted who's his sidekick again?
Oh, the guy who, not Kanzuk. It was he wanted
Henry.
The guy who moderated with me on there.
The thing is, that was a terrible idea. The thing is,
That
you
was a
cannot
terrible idea.
And so he insisted it was Henry, and then MMI was like, "No, I'll only
That's
do it if it's someone
totally
else. I'll only do it if it's someone else we both know." So they both agreed that. Okay, the Politicrat.
I mean,
the thing is,
during our debate,
because I like disagree with that, like all of them on, like both of them. I disagree with on like 75% of everything. So like I was in a weird sort of way the most unbiased.
I do want to say, though, I want to be fair to Kevin. Based waifu, I didn't watch the debate you had with Kevin. However, didn't Henry, do you think Henry did a good job at being impartial? Like, didn't he like say, "Oh, I see where you're coming from" a few times?
Yeah, he did. But there's a lot of points where he kind of let Kevin talk over me and stuff. And there's a lot of ad hominems throughout that debate.
So what I was actually surprised as, so originally MMI's and I really think that MMI should have put his foot down more. I think he kind of cucked to Kevin in this regard, but debate on neutral ground. This debate was done on Kevin's server, and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. This is nothing against Kevin, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Where he's like, "Oh no, debates only happen on my stream." Like,
yeah, exactly.
I personally find it cowardly that he insisted.
But then from what I understand, he called MMI a coward for not wanting to do it on his channel and wanting to do it on neutral ground.
What is
the reason why? Listen. The reason why he wanted to do it on his turf is because he wanted to have an advantage. Like, for example, if you thought you were being too biased, he could like intervene. And he's also shared stuff against your will, and we'll probably explore that later. Yeah. But he wanted to be able to control the situation if things got too out of hand, and that's why I think he's cowardly. He insisted on doing it on his turf so we can get away with a lot more and have an unfair advantage in certain respects.
MMI should have, I think, because the debate would have gone a lot better if it were, like, objectively speaking. And again, this is nothing against Kevin or MMI or even Castley's even Castley's what do you call them, his army? I don't know, the people in the chat, his fans,
the Castley clique,
the Castley Castley club,
the Castley
anyway
club.
Castley's is his audience. So I mean, it's not even about that. It's just more so, number one, a more professional. If it's on somebody else's channel, if it's in a debate, like that's how all YouTube debates usually end up happening, unless it's Bloodsport. I mean, because I think what they wanted was not what they asked for, because they asked me to moderate a debate, and the people in the chat were like mad that they were having a debate. And in hindsight, neither MMI nor Castley were expecting it to be a debate. I thought it was going to be a debate on policy, that sort of thing, not like attacking moral character. If they wanted blood sports, that's fine. I would have given the people what they wanted, and that's what I.
Well, here's the thing, though. MMI. No. I have to defend MMI here, because what MMI told me was that he wanted a structured debate. He basically wanted those policy debates that you have at universities, where
which is what I did.
Yeah, but I guess it didn't work out the way it wanted, and then there was 30 minutes of blood sports, which I suppose was entertaining. But...
Yeah, I think all parties eventually kind of got what they wanted. I mean, Kevin's castle got the blood sports they wanted, and then we also got like the civilized, well-moderated debate and stuff.
Yeah, true. But the thing is, also, it just makes no sense that like, a moderator should have the power to mute. And the thing, however, I will say, and I was actually expecting Kevin to do this more, mostly because it was, mostly only because it was on his turf and he would be able to. He actually had the power to do this. But I was expecting people to talk over people more. And like when I tried to intervene, people not like them not to do it. It sort of happened, or at least twice with Castley, maybe like 3 times with MMI. And when I was telling them basically to shut the fuck up, they were pretty responsive. And so yeah, I'm gonna give that to them. They at least were respectful of that. And I'm really gonna give Kevin some praise here for exercising that integrity and not just being like, oh, it's because it's my stream.
To be fair,
I'm going to give that to Kevin.
To be fair, though, I mean, during that one segment, I forgot what part of the debate it was, but you did give MMI like some time penalties because he was like making rebuttals and asking questions when he wasn't supposed to. But here's the thing: during that segment, Kevin interrupted a lot. Like he kept interjecting. So to be fair,
yeah, I think Kevin did it a lot more than MMI did.
Okay. I think. I'm in terms of the questioning, yeah. Then, like, I agree. The cross questioning section, and then also the one thing MMI did that he shouldn't have done nearly as much was when he was framing things as a question. I know he was framing them rhetorically, but like he wasn't supposed to do that, and he stopped doing that eventually. It was kind of difficult for him, from what I saw. But either way.
Yes,
George.
The thing is that MMI's debate tactic is basically. Oh, sorry.
No. You say what you're saying, then we'll move on to George.
Okay, my apologies. All I was saying was that MMI's debate tactic was essentially the Socratic method, where you ask questions and then you just continue on and use those questions and their answers against them. Like that was his method, was trying to reach certain conclusions by asking Kevin a lot of questions, even rhetorical questions. But obviously, he wasn't supposed to do that in all cases. But that was his debate tactic. That was his main strategy, was to ask questions and use the answers Kevin provided against him, which he did a few times, and you have to give him like MMI credit for that.
Yeah, true. I think I can more or less agree with that. But hold on a second. George, you watched the entire debate. Do you want to give like more or less? Actually, no. So you all watched the entire debate, starting with George. I'll give you each 2 minutes. What were your impressions of it? And don't talk about your conclusions yet, because I know Coronis based waifu. It's so weird to say that, and like unironically, but and then George. And then Ali eventually, but you all ended up siding with like Coronis and Based Waifu were on MMI's side, and then George was he was completely neutral. He did not know who MMI or Kevin were before he came in, but in the end he sided with Kevin.
Right. So from the outset, it seems like both of these guys are in the same constellation of ideology. They're both like pro NatSec, pro U.S. imperialism. They're both, I think they might stickle with this term neoliberal. And their disagreement was on, well, geez, to the degree, okay, so I guess Castley like talked more about the working class and his points were more germane to the topic. So off the bat, I can understand.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. I think it's a good thing to say. They're both elitist hawks, but one is for the working, or no, they're not even elitist. They're both hawks. One's just an elitist. One's just an anti-elitist. Like it's like a it reminds me of basically back during after the Protestant Reformation, like Anglicans and Catholics hated each other, even though they literally believed in every single thing like as each other, except for apostolic succession.
Right. So yeah, Castley's points are more germane to the issue, and MMI, he did bring up some reasons why he was elitist versus Castley, but he also went on these tangents, which I didn't get where he was going with them regarding foreign policy. I guess maybe to counter Castley's issues with like outsourcing. I don't really think that's. I think the question was a domestic policy issue, like how much consideration should we give the working class or the proletariat in any policy consideration, whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy, economic, whatever, what have you. Yeah, and I think Castley just articulated points that were germane to the topic better than MMI. MMI, he brought up some things that, again, it was just difficult to understand where he was going with them, like his whole incest point.
Yeah, that's really... And he said it was tying back into that. The thing is, I think, before I forget, I'm going to say just that I think they went in with too much personal beef, and also with a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with their disagreement on the policy necessarily, that they tried to bring into it.
Well, I like the personal beef. That makes it entertaining debate.
I mean, which is why I gave them. I was originally going to give them 15 minutes of blood sports. I ended up giving them 30 in the end. So I just give them 30 minutes.
That's because you were distracted and doing something else during the entire time.
Yeah, the blood sports. I know this is like good rhetorically, and it made MMI look weak, like just bringing up his Twitter history. But I don't know. That isn't really. Because, nowadays it's pretty easy to like say edgy stuff online and concurrently have like actual things you believe, and to like drudge up both of those two things and to like intertwine them in like a serious discussion, like a debate. That's, I don't know, not scummy, but it isn't topical. Like if you're having like a serious policy discussion, I don't think you should bring up stuff that's on the timeline, because it's part character assassination. I mean, it probably made Castley look stronger in the debate, but maybe not on the issues at hand. And to end off, I'll just say that MMI. So later on, I learned out that MMI. I wouldn't call him a Marxist, but he thinks Marxist analysis is valid, but he rejects its conclusions. I think if he had expanded,
I think it would be said not to say he's a Marxist, but to say he's a Marxian.
Yeah, I say that he uses Marxist analysis, or he accepts Marxist analysis, but he rejects the conclusions of Marxism, which is like, the proletariat should, we understand what communism is. So if he like talked about why, maybe if he talked about that, and also if he just like stuck on, if he stuck on points like Castley said that the elites are malfeasant, and I think if MMI said that, if MMI like better convinced people that the elites are not in fact malfeasant, or that doesn't matter, they're still the proper ones to decide policy, I think that would be better. Unfortunately for him, that's not how events panned out.
Okay. I just want to say, though, real quick, Pessimistic Titan is saying that Coronis and based waifu need a better metaphysical analysis. What would you guys have to say about that?
I just kind of wanted to respond to that. I don't think that I don't think the incest point was. I'm pretty sure it was a preparation for MMI to accusing that preparation in case Kevin accused him of the whole eugenics thing, but Kevin kind of just assumed that was about incest, and that was like,
okay, I have to interject.
Economy, which I don't think was supposed to be the case. So,
I have to interject here because. Can I interject very quickly? I sincerely apologize, but I have to interject here because I have to claim credit. So here's the thing. I was the one who provided MMI with that argument, but and I actually stole that incest argument from this person on Twitter known as Neoliberal Rat Goddess, who you should follow.
Oh, her.
But here's the thing. The whole point is that basically now Chris has told me, you don't know who Chris is, I apologize, but Chris told me that apart from power, well, he mentioned power dynamics. So obviously there's a power dynamic involved, which if a mother and a sister were in a relationship, I know this is a fucked up subject, but the point is, though, is that the major reason why people object to incest and have been historically is that it produces birth defects. So if you oppose the birth defects, if you want to prevent children from coming into this world with heinous birth defects, you are a eugenicist. That is the definition of eugenics. But the thing is, I told MMI to not use that argument unless Kevin attacked MMI for his pro-eugenics stance. So I claim credit, although I stole it from Neoliberal Rat Goddess. But yeah.
Anyways, I think that when you talk about how people were slinging mud at Jelly's characters, I think Kevin was doing that way, way more than MMI was. I mean, I think the only stuff that MMI gave was mostly in response to that. But there was. Hold on a second, I lost my train of thought. I think that Kevin definitely abused the whole I guess character assassination thing, and he pretty much majority of his arguments relied on ad hominems, and that was I found that really, really annoying and quite humorous, honestly, but that was and I think that it should have been taken a bit more seriously, because basically it almost felt like Kevin's entire responses to MMI was oh, you're a racist, oh, you hate the working class. And so I mean, sometimes he actually responded, he actually did respond, but I felt like that the majority of his responses were just, oh, you hate the working class, you're a racist, that's irrelevant. I mean, that's honestly that's the most memorable takeaway that I have from this debate was constant ad hominem, but from Kevin.
Okay. So we lost Coronis.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. Okay, anyway, so we're going to watch some debate highlights, and we're going to comment on them. Well, he's returned. I don't know where the fuck Ali is, but I'm just going to assume at this. I'm just going to assume.
I apologize. My internet's shit, and it kicked me out.
I'm just going to make the assumption right now that he is not coming. I'm just going to rest under that assumption.
Okay. But anyway, didn't you want us to give us our personal takes on it? Because you let George give his personal take on the debate. Are you going to let us summarize our thoughts on how the debate went?
Yeah.
Okay. So who? I think Based Waifu should go next.
Okay. I mean, also the whole with the Marxism point, I'm pretty sure MMI never said he really agreed with Marxism. I do remember him saying that he believed his Marxist analysis on capitalism doesn't matter. That's what I remember about that. But it just. I think that again, I kind of already stated, I think that Kevin just kind of relentlessly made the same point that elites are maleficent, just over and over and over. And he didn't really address a lot of MMI's counter arguments, which was the main counter argument to that was that education would stamp out bigotry. And he just kind of kept bringing up ad hominem of, oh, you hate the working class over and over. And that's kind of the main takeaway I got from that. I mean, there was a couple things that MMI fumbled on, the incest thing, but I think that was just a he would just assume that, oh, he's going to attack me on eugenics next. So I could kind of understand
totally time.
But I honestly, the majority of what I remember is just the constant ad hominems and the fact that Kevin refused to address a lot of the points. And again, he made a really good analogy in that debate where he said you can't compare a rotten apple to healthy oranges. I really like that analogy. And Kevin just ignored it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think that MMI should have hammered home on and got Castley to address, because that completely nullified Castley's framework that the elites are hostile and that you should go with, I don't know, maybe less qualified people.
Anyway, am I next?
Yeah. Oh, I thought you. Oh, okay. Yeah, you are.
Okay. I was just wondering if base waifu was done. So regarding the debate, I feel MMI objectively made superior arguments while Kevin relied on emotional appeals, ad hominem attacks, and he also ignored.
I don't know.
I don't.
Kevin didn't really do it. I don't think he did much ad hominem. I'm just gonna let you go. I'm gonna mute myself, so I'm not.
Yeah, go ahead. So emotional appeals, ad hominem attacks. He also blatantly and strategically ignored many of MMI's points because he knew he couldn't refute them. And I also feel Kevin is like a 5-year-old little boy trapped in a 27-year-old man's body, and he exhibited this throughout the entire debate. Now, I do feel MMI should have conducted himself better, such as avoiding rebuttals during that one segment. But otherwise, I feel he won that debate based on arguments alone. And that's really my take on this. I know it's a little concise, but that's basically my thoughts on the debate overall.
Shadow jury said otherwise, and again, I'm not going to.
Didn't you say?
If anybody here, if anybody watching, or I don't know, maybe even in this stream, just so happens to be on the shadow jury, please do not reveal yourself. Either way. So, shadow jury ended up ruling in favor of Kevin. So,
yes, I disagree.
So the winner of the debate is already decided. So Kevin objectively won the debate because that was. But the thing is, we also
a jury full of like MAGA people and populists. That's kind of a bit unfair.
Well, yeah, and also not to mention though, like juries can be incorrect. I mean, we have many cases like in actual jury trials of juries fucking up.
But I purposefully picked people who are not neocons, so they would.
Oh, I know, but my point is that.
But the fact that you kind of pick populists, there's another aspect I think you kind of.
But listen, my point is that yes, I know the shadow jury said that Kevin won, but I respectfully disagree with their conclusion, and that's really all I have to say. I respectfully disagree with them.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. So regarding hold on, what was I going to say? Fuck, I forget what I was going to say. I'll remember. But I remember I was talking with MMI yesterday. I'm not going to go into the details of our conversation out of respect for him. I mean, it wasn't like.
Honestly, I think it would have been. I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe it would have been better if you picked neocons because, I mean, this is kind of what this is about, right?
That's true. I mean, Alkazai was going to be on there, but he had to go to bed.
Ollie's joining. He's joining right now.
Okay. Anyway, Alkazai was going to be on the Shadow Council or Shadow Council, the Shadow Jury.
I don't think that it's good to make the argument that MMI lost because Kevin kind of just ignored.
No, but the thing is, it has nothing. But then again, we also need to remember is so generally in economics, I tend to side with the Austrian school. However, the one thing that I really do disagree with them are their assumption that human beings are rational. We are irrational creatures fundamentally.
Oh, speaking. So you're against anti-rational choice theory?
No, I'm not. I'm not against anti-rational choice theory. I just understand that nobody purely uses rational decision making when they're making their decisions. Like for instance, there are multiple parts to a debate, and especially that play into people's decisions as to who wins a debate and who doesn't. Besides just logical soundness of the argument, it also has to do with how it also has to do with conduct.
I will say this, like even though I think Kevin was like immature in some segments, like when he was just laughing at some of MMI's points,
Yeah,
I was immature. But here's the thing, like
He was definitely
in
more
the
composed.
1991 presidential election, even though George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, I felt, were equals in many ways, the fact that George H.W. Bush checked his watch during the debate to see when it was going to be finally over, many felt that was completely unprofessional, and that hurt his image. Like, appearances do matter, and I will say Kevin, in terms of like body language and other things, and the fact that he didn't really stutter. Like MMI stuttered in many parts of the debate because he was going way too fast. He was trying to summarize his points
that was
too
not.
fast.
Yeah, he should have slowed the hell down. So I remember somebody in chat was like, "Yeah, dude, this guy's on Adderall." And the thing was, I was on Adderall that night.
Oh, by the way, Ali's here.
But I was fine, like just so I could.
Anyways,
Hey guys.
I think that I mean, it's not really MMI's fault that Kevin kind of ignored a lot of his points. If anything, I think Kevin should be punished for that. If Kevin ignores his argument, that means the argument technically flows through, right? I mean, you can't really make the argument that he lost the debate because Kevin ignored his points. Doesn't ignore.
He ignored a lot of points. I even listed them.
You made a list? Okay, go over the list because remember, I just want to say so. When I was moderator of the debate, that's the main thing. That's the only thing I was really focused on. So I wasn't so much as I wasn't paying as much attention to the points they were making and what they were saying because that wasn't what I was there for. Of course, I was going to listen to it after the fact, but it was my job there to pay attention purely to if they're making any like number one logical fallacies, like ad hoc. Also, like if they were started attacking each other. So I could calm them down. Also to keep the time. Also just to, that was what I was there for. The Shadow Jury was there to specifically pay attention to the debate itself. But I just want to say, I don't know. I just want to say though. So I don't recall. You said you made a list of points Kevin didn't address. Yeah,
I made a list of them. Like it's just a few points, but I won't get into it until you want me to.
No, I was about to say, that's actually what I want you to get into because I wasn't paying attention in that regard.
Since you gave everyone the opportunity to like present our personal opinion, like summarize our sentiment with respect to this debate, you should let Ali summarize his views on the debate since he just joined, and then I'll go.
All right. Thanks. How are you guys doing today?
Hello, Ali. Welcome to the stream. I think this is the first time I've ever had you on anything.
Yeah. So, my thoughts on this. I mean, I thought that Kevin won the debate. I know some people here might disagree, but I think he was better able to articulate his points. I think that he was calmer throughout the debate, and I think that, I agree more with Kevin anyway, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I do think that he generally performed better than MMI.
In what regard?
He was more articulate. He was calmer. I think that his points were I think that his political points were better than MMI's too. Because like, I know that's a little bit subjective, but I do agree more with Kevin.
Okay. On like policy and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So should I mention some of the points that Kevin ignored? Okay.
Yes.
So for one, Kevin says that free trade hurts the economy. He's made this point several times that outsourcing is bad.
Which is objectively untrue. Like,
but
I've tried pushing back on Kevin with that, but he
did say that free trade hurts the economy, yet Russia is protectionist and only trades with client states. And this is the second point. He says we should prevent Russia from outsourcing, yet outsourcing is bad for the economy via sanctions.
Russia doesn't outsource anything. They're like, they try to be as autarkic as possible, with the exception of trading with like Iran.
Yeah, but the point is that Kevin wants to prevent Russia from trading with other people, even though he says that free trade is bad for the economy. That is a contradiction.
Ah, that is true. I never thought of that. That's interesting. I part of me feels like Kevin has never considered that before. Like he's never put two and two together. But that is interesting, and you are absolutely correct there. That is a major flaw with the argument he was making. or just with his general ideology in general. Like objectively speaking, like even analyzing this from a neutral perspective, he is 100%. That is strange.
Oh yeah. He also called out Kevin for another contradiction that for some reason I cannot recollect. Maybe Based Waifu can help me out with this.
Didn't he wait a second? Did he point that part out in the debate though? Like what Cronus just said.
From what I recall.
No, what MMI called out was regarding his position that there's no difference between being sanctioned by every country in the world and imposing tariffs on every country in the world. It's something related to that. I just do not recollect that segment of the debate, but he did call out a contradiction that Kevin made, and Kevin refused to address it. He refused to defend that position. I just can't remember it, but maybe when you play the segment, I'll remember.
Okay. So yeah, I guess what we'll do.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did address that. I'd have to look at it again, but I think he said that something along the lines of how addressed how Kevin thinks outsourcing is bad for the U.S., but he believes that we should prevent Russia from doing its sanctions. I think he said something along those lines.
Okay.
But
yeah, I actually have a question for you guys though. So I was thinking what we'll do is we'll end up going till 3 or 3 Eastern time, so that's another 20 minutes. And then so we'll start by watching the debate, and we'll talk a little bit more about the arguments, and then then we reconvene. I'll do another one. We'll reconvene in like 2 hours for one specifically focusing on the drama, and then basically like on the drama, because I mean honestly I knew they were going to bring up the drama at some point, but I wasn't aware that they were going to during the debate bring up as much of it as possible, which is why I gave them blood sports at the end to just focus on that. But yeah, I'm going to want to address certain things just about the context of the debate specifically, as well as some things that I had a problem with on a personal level. And we're also going to have a pessimistic Titan join us if you guys feel comfortable with that.
I don't know. I mean,
because I mean,
I think this panel is balanced now. Now that Ollie is in here, and Ollie's very good at articulating his points, I think this panel is fairly balanced now.
Okay, so Titan, you can come on. I will. I give you like first priority for the next episode of the Political Pigpen, which might be tomorrow. So, sorry about that, but yeah. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go. Actually, let's go till 3:05 Eastern Standard Time. Reconvene. I'd say around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Does that work?
5:30. Taking a 2-hour break.
Yeah. I mean, I need to. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm gonna just create another stream for that. But yeah, it's like I said, I ended up oversleeping. I need to get some food. I need to run to the store as well. But yeah, so this is like the introductory stream, and then we'll have a longer one starting at 5:30. Is that fine with everybody? You guys going to be free then?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so. I should double check.
I mean, 5:30 is like 4:30 here, so yeah.
So wait, what are we doing? So we're gonna watch this and then address certain points, and then we'll come back in 2 hours.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably be on. Are we all gonna be on?
Yes, we're all gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it gonna be the same panel, basically?
Same panel, same exact.
Okay,
panel.
good.
It's
So we're just taking a break.
It's gonna be a separate stream.
So this stream will be publicly available, though, right? You're gonna keep this up.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Cool. Okay. So we'll go on to watching the debate. Hey, me as Crusader. The opening crawl, so that was a bit of a failure. Kevin loved that. So much time writing that. That was time I could have been anyway. Anyway, so everybody, welcome to Superpower Broadcasting.
That is a sick helmet.
I am your host, the Politicrat, of course. I do not agree with either of them on foreign policy, which is actually why I was pretty much Kevin was like half thought it was funny. But hold on, I feel like with the Crusade or with the helmet thing, Kevin, like part of Kevin found that funny, and but then he felt also part of him felt super uncomfortable because he was not expecting me to do that, and he thought I was like he wanted it to have the veneer of being more serious than it is. He's looking at him with a suit and tie and everything.
Well, I mean, it's hard to take. Yeah, it's hard to take some of this stuff seriously. Honestly,
I mean, it wasn't pretty serious. It wasn't. I mean, because neither of them were particularly serious during this debate. I mean, not serious.
I mean, he's debating someone that goes by McCarthyist, Machiavellian, Imperialist.
And then Kevin
and
Castley
shows up in a suit and tie.
Then I showed up. I mean, I think I had the best look, objectively. Like, I have a fucking helmet. But either way, so I feel like part of Kevin didn't appreciate that because he thought I was just not taking it seriously. Yet in the end, it turned out that I was taking it more seriously than either of them, in spite of my Crusader getup. I could have worn actually a full-on Crusader costume instead of the helmet. But
oh, that sounds like fun.
I did that on the Hallow stream, which was the Halloween stream we did, where we spent spent like 3 hours talking about conspiracy theories and ziggurats. Anyway, in a way, but either way, so tonight we will be having a very formal debate. All right, and let's get to the resolution is.
So tonight I'm facing McCarthyist, Machiavellian, Imperialist. We're arguing, should we screw over?
Okay, it was weird that he sort of like reintroduced it. That's kind of what I thought was strange at the time. I don't know what he was trying to do there, but I feel like maybe that was just part of his opening statements.
Yeah, I think maybe he had that written down and wanted to read it.
Okay.
For the working class, should we fuck over the working class? Obviously, my point around this is that when it comes to my worldview, when it comes to the hot community as a whole, there are people out here that will say, "Oh, we need to have unity. We need to have unity. We can't divide. We can't infight." And I at this point consider the extent of this being infighting as much as fighting the Nazis was in World War II. In other words, not all
just compared it to the Nazis. Oh my god!
Okay, we need to pause this. Listen,
just as Hitler was hawkish.
Okay.
I have to say this. This is an example of ad hom. He compared, unironically, MMI's worldview to that of Nazism. I think that was an ad hom, or at least an attack, an indirect attack on MMI's character.
I was too busy taking a drink, I think, to. But yeah. Either way, that is yeah.
I don't think he was directly calling. I think he was just saying this disagreement is still substantial.
I said indirectly. I said indirectly, not directly.
Okay. Even then, I don't think he was calling him a Nazi or anything. I think he was just saying this. I think he was just saying that like being a hawk isn't the only thing. There's still like disagreements between hawks, I guess.
Okay, so I have a couple of timestamps that I thought I saved that I thought were interesting.
Okay. Let's keep watching this part.
Yeah.
We'll move on to your timestamps.
I just put it in the private chat. So.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll finish we'll finish just highlighting the opening statements. We'll go to your timestamps, and then after going over the timestamps, we'll just do sort of closing statements, and we'll have our 2-hour intermission. And for everyone watching, part 2 is going to be a separate stream. So yeah. All right. And the second and part 2, just to let you guys know, is probably going to go for much longer than this one. So
that doesn't mean that they're in the same community as Truman and Reagan and George W. Bush. In other words, we represent different agendas, different worldviews. We represent different, general agendas for the world. And so what we're talking about here is essentially the base of the economy. We're talking about the purpose of our country, by and large. And in this case, we're talking about the American dream, which applies outside of the United States, towards all Western countries.
I kind of stole this point from you, Politicrat, although it's a basic historical fact. But the working class is not the basis of the American dream. The American Revolution was a middle class revolution.
This is one of the biggest things. This is going to sound really weird. So everyone knows Steve Bannon, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of my main contentions with Steve Bannon, and you can see this. I ended up actually doing an interview a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if any of you guys saw it with Dr. Benjamin Teitelbaum from the University of Colorado Boulder, professor of ethnomusicology and international relations. So for a book he was writing, he spent 2 years shadowing Steve Bannon and interviewing him and just like following him around doing that stuff. And he ended up talking about, so Steve Bannon has a very distorted view of what he sort of sees as like the metaphysical basis of America, and basically the white flyover state middle class, like the Scots-Irish, also the people of the Rust Belt. He sees them as sort of the metaphysical root of the United States, but that's not true. The thing is, the American Revolution was a revolution of the middle class. It was a bourgeois revolution.
Well, yeah, but not only that, but keep in mind that in early America, in order for you to even vote, you had to be a white male who owned at least 100 acres of property. That does not sound very pro-working class when you have to own a lot of land just to contribute politically.
Yeah, it was middle class. It was like basically be middle class. Like, I mean, personally, I'm more of the persuasion.
Yeah. George and I discussed this before the stream.
Yeah. But either way, working class is important.
George
But
and I
I don't think
this
the working class is important. But I don't think that it is the. Hey! I'm talking right now. I usually in a conversation supposed to have me talk over you guys. But anyway, so because the sort of metaphysical backbone of the United States is not the working class, never has been. They're fundamentally important to the United States, and they shouldn't be castigated like McCarthyist, Machiavellian, Imperialist more or less believes. But this is a country of the middle class, like objectively, and that is, I think, what makes it unique in a lot of respects. Because the concept of the middle class is fairly new in all of human civilization. I mean, you've had like similar equivalents of the middle class arise in like ancient Rome, for example, and ancient like Babylon, but like as like a sort of officially recognized sort of culture, so to speak, because there's a cultural element. There's like that notion of like bourgeois pride, in a sense, just sort of the especially in the United States, that Calvinist work ethic right here. That just it's a very like that is like more or less the root of the middle class, and the root of sort of the United States spirit, the Protestant work ethic, if you to talk about Weber. But either way, I just wanted to address that point, that the working class, while important, is really only important in the practical sense and is less important in like the sort of spiritual, metaphysical sense.
Also, before Coronis goes on, I'd like to point out the American Dream is a recent concept, and I think it only came about due to unique historical circumstances following World War II, and now I think the American Dream is basically.
I'd say it was a little bit before that, maybe. Like, you had proto versions of the American Dream, beginning with Manifest Destiny.
No, okay,
precursors.
I mean, I don't think the American Dream is like, taking land from the Indians and like, creating an empire of liberty or whatever. I don't think that's a part of the American Dream. But anyway, I think most people here will agree that the American Dream is basically dead, and we're returning to a more familiar form of American society where oligarchs run the show.
Yeah, exactly. Because
which is what
originally there were only like three classes in America. It was the sort of the peasant class. Then there were the gentry, or the merchant. No, not gentry. There was like the merchants. No, it was the merchants, which were the middle class. So just like general standard, like uniform middle class, which is sort of, like I said, the metaphysical basis. And then you had the sort of aristocracy, the oligarch type people. But then starting especially after World War II, the middle class diversified, and you have like 4 different tiers of the middle class. And then even the working class, you had like different tiers of that. So like You had
To be
those
fair,
working class people.
up
But,
until
hold on, let me finish my point.
sorry,
And so George makes a really good point here, where that is more of an anomaly than anything. The idea, like that sense of social mobility, and social mobility, especially in Western countries, has always been a thing, even in the Middle Ages to a lesser extent. You had more social mobility in Europe in the Middle Ages than, for instance, ancient India during that same time. But it was more of a cultural thing, though. But still, you had the most social mobility in human history from about, I'd say, the 1950s through the 1990s. Maybe even early 2000s. Actually, I'd extend it up through the up till the financial crisis in 2008, maybe. But now we're sort of starting to see classes somewhat stiffen, so social mobility is a little more difficult. Wages have been stagnating since the Bush years. Everyone is still on average getting richer
Since the
getting wealthier.
70s, actually.
Really? Okay. But either way, yeah, I do agree with you. There are so many different like classes right now in the United States, whereas there only used to be 3 or 4.
I do want to add to what I apologize. I just wanted to add that it could also depend on your geographical location, because up until the 1860s, the South essentially had a caste system where you basically had the poor farmers, then you had the slaves, and then you had the aristocracy, and that was a caste system. Like if you were born into one of those classes, you were there for life essentially. So in some parts of the U.S., it was a caste system.
I mean, it wasn't formally codified though, like in ancient India.
Well, it was practically codified. I mean, I think Cronus is largely correct here.
I think it was more like a feudal type system, as opposed to a caste system.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like because basically,
a racial caste system.
If you think about it, what the Civil War really was is, you can make the argument that it was about states' rights. Yeah, you can make the argument that it was about slavery. But I think at the heart of it, what it was sort of that last final struggle between industrial capitalism and the final holdout of feudalism in the Western world, which was the agrarian South.
I actually kind of agree with you on that analysis.
I mean, that's my that's a metaphysical analysis. The materialist analysis, I would say, is slavery.
So two things. First of all, Ali hasn't really spoken much, so I want to give him a chance because we're about to end the stream, and I want to give him a chance to give his opinion on this. But I do want to say one more thing. I think my point is clear, though, that basically the American Revolution was a bourgeois revolution.
Yeah,
and this working class idealism, which is essentially populism. I think Kevin is a populist in denial, but this working class idealism that Kevin promotes in this debate is not a reflection of what most of the founding fathers he probably romanticizes actually believed in. And what's funny is that MMI, one of MMI's biggest influences is Alexander Hamilton.
He wasn't even middle class. Like was he even middle class? I think Hamilton would be a good example of middle class. Jefferson was aristocracy though.
Yeah, Ollie?
I do agree with the statement that I do talk about the Civil War sometimes, and I do tell people that in a lot of ways it was a war between modern capitalism and feudalism, and a lot of people seem to be confused by that. But yeah, I just use this sort of explanation that the North was embracing the ideas of the Enlightenment, and the Confederate South were just using the ideas of Dark Age Europe.
In a sense, I don't personally. I hate the term Dark Ages because I actually especially
Middle Ages.
Yeah, Middle Ages is a better way of saying. I still don't like the idea of ancient medieval, modern, because that's a ridiculous way of looking at it.
Well, that's because you read Spengler, and Spengler thinks that those three, trying to.
But for the sake of being as simple as possible, so people don't get confused, I think the term Middle Ages is fine. But yeah, because there were actually in many ways they were a lot smarter than us in the Middle Ages. I unironically think that they knew a lot more than we did in certain respects. But.
Oh no, definitely. This might be a hot take, but I actually think that I think people before, say, the 1960s were more articulate. Like even the poor were more articulate than people are today. I have no idea why, but that's my personal opinion, that people were more intelligent before the 1960s. And I say that even
I think we're getting off topic. We'll have a
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that.
I'm starting a, like I said, and I've been saying this for like the past 6 months, but I never have ended up going through with it. But I promise, I'm starting a philosophy and history and science and sort of like more intellectual, highbrow live stream series at some point called the Homo Sapien Agenda. So that'll be fun. We can talk about these sort of things there. Anyway, so we're gonna move on to talk about based waifus. Wait, where you're? Oh, 132.56.
Yeah,
okay.
This is where it was. We're talking about that contradiction about Russian outsourcing earlier. I guess maybe we should just play the thing.
Okay. Was it? Hold on. Where? 132.50. Okay, so I'm at 132.50.
Arguments against you. Okay, so here are your answers to my questionnaires. Okay, you said that there's no consequential and functional difference between a country that terrors every country in the world and a country that is sanctioned by every country in the world. Besides that, one is self-inflicted and the other is not self-inflicted. You've also said that you do not support free trade and outsourcing in countries such as South Korea and Japan. Your reasoning was that outsourcing those countries will leave those countries potentially occupied by aggressive states such as China and Russia, and they could take over our factories there. That was your argument, okay? And then after that, I asked, and then your other answer was, if you could sanction any country, which country would you sanction? You answered Russia. Why? Because you believe that sanctioning Russia would hurt them economically. And during the Cold War, the Soviet Union outsourced heavy manufacturing satellite states. Okay, Ukraine is one example of this, and Ukraine had their nuclear weapons too. Okay?
Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union. Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union.
Yes, and you're not supposed to ignore. You're not supposed to intervene. And Poland was a client state that they had outsourced as well too. So another thing. So that's a contradiction. The reason is that because here's why it's a contradiction. You want to hurt Russia. We all agree with that. But by your own logic, outsourcing heavy manufacturing in their client states, such as Poland or East Germany, would be bad for them because they could potentially be occupied by an aggressive state. You said we can't occupy South Korea and Japan, or we can't outsource to them because they can be occupied by China. The same way, however, Poland and East Germany could have been occupied by the United States during the Cold War. So if anything, they shouldn't have outsourced to Poland and East Germany by your own logic because they could be occupied by us. So if anything, if you want to sanction Russia, you're helping them. You want to help them because by your own logic, outsourcing heavy manufacturing is bad for them. So that's a contradiction, which you obviously can't take note of. And another thing. So many things. Okay, first of all, you said I conflated sleeping with your sister and heavy manufacturing in a country. No, never happened. All I did was ask you a question about incest. The reason I actually asked you was that you were going to, I expected that you would bring up a point about eugenics. Because technically speaking, eugenics.
Yeah, that's a bit.
What eugenics means.
I gotta say this.
This is why. What eugenics means is getting rid.
This is why I told MMI, do not bring up the incest argument until Kevin explicitly mentions your eugenics stay. He really shouldn't have mentioned that at all.
Okay.
Kevin mentioned that.
Anyways, but that's not the point. The point is that this is where he points out that logical contradiction. But basically, what he was saying was that Kevin believes that the U.S. should not outsource, but yet we should prevent Russia from outsourcing, which in his definition would be bad for Russia because in his mind, outsourcing is bad. I mean, Kevin made the argument that outsourcing is bad because outsourcing would leave outsourced countries vulnerable. And by that logic, Russia outsourcing to Poland would be bad for Russia. I mean, that's then why does he want to sanction Russia and then prevent them from outsourcing? That's what he was mostly pointing out here.
You want me to continue playing this part?
I mean, that's mostly the clip I wanted to show you, but yeah, basically.
Let's finish. let's just okay. So we'll finish with
that was the main point I wanted to make. The fact that Kevin still did not respond to this point, and this was a point that even you and Coronis agreed with earlier, and you're wondering why didn't MMI make this point. He did make that point, and during the debate.
Okay.
When did Kevin mention eugenics though? When did he mention it?
I'm not talking about eugenics.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, I was talking about the whole outsourcing thing. Yeah, Cronus, you and Politicrat just agreed that the
it's definitely a
transition makes sense to undermine Kevin's argument.
Indeed, it really does.
MMI did make that exact point we were talking about earlier in the debate.
It's a hideous hiccup, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue. We'll continue. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish by watching the rest of MMI's point. We're gonna talk about that briefly.
Before we do that, though, can I ask a question very quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you said you're gonna restart this thing at 5 o'clock, but there's a time zone thing, so I have to ask this. Ali, what time is it for you?
2:05. Sorry, no,
Okay.
2:06.
I think we're going to do it more close to 5:30, just so we can give everybody enough time.
Okay, so it would be 4:30 in Ollie's time. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm in Minnesota.
Oh, my friend lives in Minnesota. One of my good friends.
Yeah, I'm now in the Eastern time zone, away from the snow, thankfully. Yay.
We got a lot of snow today, and this is only the second snow we've gotten this year or this winter. Virginia's weird.
I'm down in COVID alligator land.
Oh, are you in Florida?
Right now, yeah.
Fuck, that is Florida. Okay, so basically, if Satan dies, he goes to Florida. When Satan dies, he goes. Florida is literally the armpit of the United States of the world. I hate. Actually, no, I like certain parts of Florida. It's just South Florida I hate.
Yeah, I'm liking.
So, Ali, are you happy that Florida will be flooded? Will be underwater within the next 50 years?
Well, I actually like Florida, so not really.
I like parts of Florida.
Also, should we respond to the stream chat before we go off as well?
Pardon? No,
we're not.
No, we're not. We're gonna wait and do. We're gonna talk about some of the more. So what we're gonna do is so for the first half of part 2, we're going to be talking about the rest of the analytical perspectives and the points they were making, and then the second half it's going to be drama alert. So we're going to talk about the drama behind it.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Oh, what kind of drama?
The context of the. It's going to tie in here, but the context of.
Are we going to bring up him trying to
say this in the least loaded way possible, and I can answer, or because I know we have some of MMI's friends watching right now, and we have some of Kevin's fans watching right now, and
We're getting into the drama. That sounds like a job for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
why we
but when you do that, you better do a Keemstar impression.
I've never watched Keemstar in my life.
I don't really watch Keemstar. All I know is let's get right into the news.
I can like Bernie Sanders. Right? I could do a Bernie Sanders or an Obama or a Bill Clinton or a Donald Trump if you want.
I'm gonna take all of your money and give it to the poor bastard sitting next to you.
The 3 little capitalist pigs. What's upon the top? I think that was a Freedom Tunes video, but and then you little rocket man, you loser, and then I could talk like President Bill Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. Anyway,
bit of here. Let me pull up a definition of eugenics again. This eugenics is defined as the practice of advocacy of improving human species by selectively mating people with specific desirable hereditary traits, and it aims to reduce human suffering by breeding out diseases. So, if you are against incest, then yes, you technically be saying you want to minimize these hereditary diseases. Now, And then, by the way, I'm not a racist eugenics either. I don't think it should be based on race, and that's another thing. And you also said that consensus in academia is bounded by confirmation bias and stagnant ways of viewing the world, such as cheering on outsourcing and welfare into account. Okay, that's what you said. Okay, you never prove that outsourcing is bad. Besides saying that it gets people laid off. You just make canned statements. I, on the other hand, have said outsourcing minimizes marginal cost, and in doing so, it produces social welfare because it maximizes both producer and consumer surplus. And you can also do this by pursuing deregulation. Yes, I know. Deregulation in the economy. And if you tax the newfound surplus in a way that minimizes that weight loss, it's actually better for utilitarian reasons. And it's actually better for the working class. And while some may have been unemployed, that's literally the same thing as saying minimum wage is good, because even though it gets people unemployed, that's literally the same logic you made. And again, you said I'm gutting my own workforce. If you get rid of the regulations that I mentioned about the unions, actually it would probably cancel out the outsourcing effect of and also this is another thing. You said having more malicious people in charge is bad. Okay, when did I say that? You fell for the same trap I laid out. I point out in my argument in this section that you can't make a point against elites being more.
Okay, I don't think MMI should have said that. Ha! It's like he's like, ha! You have fallen into my little trap.
He said, yeah, that for some reason the way he said that reminded me of Palpatine from Star Wars.
No, he sounded like a cartoon villain.
Yeah.
Like, you have fallen into my little trap.
I insisted MMI change his profile picture to Megatron before because he does sound like a cartoon villain sometimes. I'm like, you know what? Just embrace that. Just embrace that aesthetic of being like a cartoon villain.
They're both like cartoon villains. They both are.
He said he was going to change it to like that Porky from the communist propaganda cartoons.
Yeah, that would have actually been funny. That would have completely trolled. That would have been a great way of trolling.
So actually, I want to say.
Hold on, he has 20 seconds left. Hold on.
Sorry. Than average people. The same analogy with apple rotten, ripe orange. Orange can be ripe.
5 seconds.
Analogy. Just because apples are better than oranges doesn't mean it's more rotten.
And time. Okay. Coronas.
So I want to actually agree with something MMI said. So, well, not agree with, but I want to explain something. So MMI essentially believes in deregulation, but higher taxes. The reason why is because the regulations over the economy hinders the profitability of a business. Mm-hmm. So when businesses can maximize their profits, which means you get rid of some things like the minimum wage, so they can basically do whatever.
I'm actually for a progressive tax. Like,
yeah, but his logic is basically, if you deregulate businesses, they can make more in profits, and therefore that's more revenue for the government. So you deregulate, so you can impose higher taxes, and therefore the government gets more revenue off the surplus.
Okay.
Which is a very interesting perspective. So you essentially deregulate so you can justify higher taxes so you can fund social programs, which is a very unique perspective, in my opinion.
Okay. I don't necessarily disagree. But either way, so in general, so moving on from this topic, what I want to do is I want us all, well, with an exception for me, because I never do the final thoughts part, since I'm just the host. Like, the thing is, if you've noticed political pig pens, the whole point of the political pig, I mean, this isn't a political pig pen, don't get me wrong, but my style has been to more just so be the overseer and let the other people make that. Have you noticed that? Usually, like, I generally don't even interject on my own live streams unless I really need to push back. But I like to see myself as more of a Larry King, just let them talk. Anyway, so let's start with Based Waifu. Just from specifically what you talked about, just give you your final thoughts, and then we'll leave on a cliffhanger.
I mean, I don't think it would. I don't think the jury is right in declaring the winner, because I mean, we have this whole list of things Kevin did not address and just completely ignored, and basically in debate that's pretty much admission. So honestly, I most certainly do not agree with the outcome of the jury, especially since the jury is full of populists, which are more likely to side with Kevin, since Kevin's views are far more populist. And I don't think that I don't really take the whole jury thing to heart. But I mean, I know that MMI kind of stumbled on a bit of his words, but I don't think that's a good way to judge a debate. But yeah, I mean, I just take what. I think that there are a lot of pretty good points made, mostly by MMI. But of course, I'm going to think that. But of course, you're going to accuse me of bias like that. But I think he did pretty well in that debate.
Okay. Moving on to who's next? George. Final thoughts on specifically what we covered today. George of the Jungle. Are you there right now?
He said he would be AFK for a moment at 2:58, and he hasn't returned since. So he's not here right now.
Okay. Someone can send him a message, I guess, on Discord eventually.
Okay.
I mean, he should, or I mean, he'll probably take the hint when no one's here. But yeah, no, we're going to continue the stream after that. But okay, so Ali, final thoughts specifically on what we discussed. Yeah.
All right. So even though I didn't get to, so even though I wasn't here for half of it, that's all right. My final thoughts. I'm excited to be here at 4:30, I guess, to have a more detailed conversation. But out of what we discussed today, I think I'm still. I mean, I still agree with my original statement. And I mean, yeah, there's really not that much else I could really think about.
Okay. And finally, Cronus the Great. Not Cronus the Lesser, but Cronus the Great.
So I think in terms of pure logic, MMI did exceedingly well, like in terms of the actual arguments themselves. But if we're going to also judge by like appearances and how one conducts himself, yeah, I can like MMI does stumble a lot. It does sound like he overdid his Adderall prescription, but and so I can understand why, based on charisma alone, the shadow jury might lean with Kevin. If we're actually going to,
I mean, neither of them are particularly charismatic, I think. I mean, Kevin slightly more, but I'd say Kevin is mildly charismatic, but I would say, I don't think MMI has any charisma at all. Like, he could never make it in politics. Like, he could never get elected if he.
We've told him that before, that he could never make it in politics. But no, so I stand by what I said in my introduction, that I think MMI, in terms of the arguments themselves, which I think should be given priority, I think in terms of the arguments themselves, MMI won this debate. And I respectfully disagree with the shadow jury. But that being said, I do think Kevin did a better job at articulating himself. But I don't think that's MMI's fault necessarily. I think he just felt pressured into rushing his statements. That's all I really have to say.
On that note, we are going to have about 2 hour, 15-minute recess. Everyone, we will reconvene at about 5:30. We'll probably start the stream closer to 5:45, but we'll try to have it as close to 5:30.
I might be a little late in that context, but I'll see what I can do.
That's fine, because we need you for this one, definitely.
Yeah, okay. I'll see. I'll let you know, okay?
Okay, so on that note, everybody, we will be left on a cliffhanger. So yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you soon.